Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 19th episode of the Asian Football Show. First of all, very happy Nowruz Mubarak to all those celebrating, whether you're in Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, or really anywhere celebrating. I'm once again joined by my good friend here, Arya. Hello, Arya. How are you doing?
Hello, how are you? Yeah, man, it's been what you said 36 days since the last episode. Yeah, we've been really busy. We were supposed to be recording this like last 2 weeks. It's the end of session for me, university session, so I've got a lot to do, and I'm sure Erfan is very busy as well. But yeah, we're back. We're back. It's always cool to be back. We've got a lot to cover, so this is going to be a very heavy episode. Erfan, what are we going to be covering in this episode?
Yeah, like you said, we've been very busy over the past few weeks. It's almost the end of the semester for you, almost the end of my senior year. So we've been a bit busy. Yeah, so we'll start off with the Asian World Cup qualifiers. So I'll just go through the matches first of all of the groups, then we can talk about any if there's anyone you want to talk about. So in Group A, Qatar played two games against Kuwait. In Doha, Qatar won 3-0, and in Kuwait, Qatar won 2-1. Very exciting game, actually, the one in Kuwait. I caught a bit of that game. All the goals came in 3 minutes, so between the 77th and 80th minute. And in the other games in the group, Afghanistan played India in two games. The first game in Saudi Arabia, which ended 0-0. And the second game in India, which was a 2-1 win for Afghanistan. They were originally losing 1-0 after a penalty by Sunil Chhetri in the first half. But then Afghanistan's, you could say, B team, they turned it around and were able to get a massive win in India. In Group B, Japan beat North Korea 1-0 in Tokyo. And then the second game, which was supposed to be held in Pyongyang, was cancelled and awarded as a 3-0 to Japan after North Korea said they were unable to host the game. Myanmar played against Syria. This is probably the shock of the round. Myanmar tied 1-1 against Syria in Yangon. But in the return leg in Saudi Arabia, Syria absolutely smashed Myanmar 7-0. And that just shows the importance of Omar Kharbin, as he was not there for the first game, but then when he played for the second game, he scored a hat trick. In Group C, we had Singapore playing two games against China. In Singapore, they actually drew 2-2 while they were losing 2-0, and then they lost 4-1 to China in Tianjin. South Korea played a game against Thailand. They drew in Seoul, a very good result for Thailand, but unfortunately for them, they lost 3-0 in Bangkok. In Group D, we had Kyrgyzstan winning two games against Chinese Taipei. First one 2-0, second one 5-1 at their home stadium. Oman won both their games against Malaysia as well, both of them 2-0. In Group E, we had Iran, who played two games against Turkmenistan. The first one was an easy 5-0 win in the Azadi Stadium. The second one was in a very bad pitch in Ashgabat. Iran still got the 3 points thanks to Qaidi's strike in the first half. And Uzbekistan also won both their games against Hong Kong, 2-0 in Hong Kong and 3-0 in Uzbekistan. In Group F, Iraq won both their game against the Philippines, although the first one was thanks to a very late winner by Muhammad Ali. It was going to be a very shocking result for them, but they were not able to hold on, the Philippines. And the return leg in Manila, Iraq won 5-0. Indonesia also won both their games against Vietnam. In Group G, Saudi Arabia won against Tajikistan 1-0 in Riyadh, but drew away in Dushanbe. Jordan beat Pakistan 3-0 in Islamabad and 7-0 in Amman. Very easy games for them. And then not finally, but in Group H, UAE beat Yemen 3-0 and 2-1. And Bahrain also beat Nepal 5-0 and 3-0. And then finally in Group I, Palestine beat Bangladesh in two games, 5-0 and 1-0. And Australia beat Lebanon in two games. So, Arya, I'll let you take the center stage because I think I talked a bit too much there.
So for Group A, which was for me the match of this whole qualification cycle so far, it has to be Afghanistan versus India, right? I'm not going to stand here and say India is an amazing team, with all due respect, but you would expect them to beat Afghanistan, especially their B team. Some would say their C team in all cases, but no, they won that game, and it's a huge victory because this means that Afghanistan if they do well against, I think they're playing Qatar and who is it, Kuwait, I think next. If they somehow get a result, they might be in position to qualify for the Asian Cup, which I think this is what they're aiming for. And to go through would be insane. I mean, with all going on in their federation, they're not even putting in their best players. Imagine if they somehow get out of this group as second. They still have Qatar, which is going to be a very hard game realistically. But against Kuwait, they might actually do it. And then it also depends on if India is able to beat the two others as well. Group B, not much else really to say. I mean, yeah, the Myanmar series result was the only surprising one. The rest was pretty self-explanatory. I must say, Japan's 1-0 victory in Tokyo against North Korea is a little bit of a shocking win. I mean, it's not enough, in my opinion. And scored that goal very, very quickly. And then just from then on, just stopped playing. It seems, I don't know. Moriyasu is starting to lose a lot of trust from the fans, from what I've been seeing, anyways. Ever since the Asian Cup, to be honest. For Group C, not much. Thailand against South Korea. That was a good one. It's a good result. I think it's going to be between them and China to finish second. I don't think anyone's going to be reaching South Korea. Nothing really else to say for Group D. Oman and Kyrgyzstan are pretty much running through everyone. And I mean, Malaysia's still there. I think they're playing. Let me check who they're playing. I think they're playing. Yeah, they're playing Kyrgyzstan and Chinese Taipei. So they actually still have a chance to go up. With things standing as of now. For Group E, Iran. I mean, yeah, you've already said it against Turkmenistan. The first game was a very easy one, and in the second game, that pitch was genuinely terrible. Like I saw some images of the players after the game where they were showing like how like not injured, but they had a lot of like blood on their legs and stuff. It just didn't seem well, and I hope that the AFC will do something, because you can't be playing games on those sort of pitches. I mean, someone's gonna get hurt badly one day, right? Group F, Iraq, again a clean sweep. They haven't lost the game. They're just running through 12 points, max points here. Indonesia, who won against Vietnam, and that was a very good win. I mean, a very convincing win. Vietnamese fans all over Twitter were very, very disappointed over the result. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think the other groups were pretty self-explanatory, except for maybe Saudi Arabia's draw against against Tajikistan. Other than that, not much surprises. I want to mention something about Group A, though. I hope that the Afghan players who are boycotting the national team, I hope they return for the final games in June, because Afghanistan can literally make history here if they qualify to the next round. And I've seen a lot of their fans on social media saying the same thing. Like they understand why they're boycotting, but this is a huge moment for Afghanistan. And if they come in with a full strength squad, I don't see why they cannot do it. So yeah, I'll just go through the teams that have qualified for both the Asian Cup and the final stage. So the teams that have qualified are from Group A, Qatar has qualified. From Group B, Japan. From Group C, no team has qualified yet, even though South Korea need like just 1 point. And then from Group E, both Iran and Uzbekistan have qualified. So Turkmenistan and Hong Kong are out of the World Cup. Group F, Iraq has qualified. Group G, no one has qualified yet, but although Saudi Arabia have qualified for the Asian Cup as hosts. And in Group H, UAE has qualified, with Australia qualifying in Group I. So yeah, I don't think there's much to cover. Let's move on to the Asian Champions League area. Yeah.
Yeah, these games were played a while ago, actually, at the time of recording, right? So there's a lot to talk about. I mean, you watch the AFC Champions League a lot more than I do, but I actually got to watch some of the games this time. I was watching them um while watching them in school. So yeah, listen, there's a lot to talk about, right? So the first tie we're gonna go through is gonna be Jeonbuk Hyundai against Ulsan HD. the greatest team name in history. The first game ended in a 1-1 draw, an all Korean tie as well. The second game went to Ulsan HD. They won the game 1-0, courtesy of a Young Woo Sol goal in the 47th minute, or 45 plus 2, however you want to call it. So Ulsan HD will now be facing Yokohama F Marinos, who they won against Shandong Taishan. The first game ended 2-1, and it was a pretty interesting game to watch. As for the second game, they also won 1-0. Anderson Lopez with a 75th minute goal. Both teams got a red card. It was a pretty heated game, understandably, considering all the circumstances. It sets up for Ulsan HD and Yokohama F Marinos tie. It's going to be very interesting. As for the other side of the bracket, Al Ain actually got the win over Al Nasser. And they won the first game 1-0. Sufyan Rahimi with a crazy game. But then I think everyone expected Al Nasser to come back. But surprisingly, they lost. They lost on penalties against Sufyan Rahimi with another great performance. And it was that 118th minute penalty from Cristiano Ronaldo, which a lot of people would claim it wasn't a penalty. Nevertheless, Al Nassr ended up technically winning the game, but wasn't enough on aggregate. And Al Ain went through on penalties, which I think that's just a huge win. I mean, Al Nassr for a lot of people were the favorites to win it. You know, Ronaldo and stuff with the team that they have. But yeah, it would have been nice to see an Al Hilal and Al Nassr tie, to see which team can reach the final. But it's going to be Al Ain who will be reaching their game against Al Hilal, who they completely swept Al Ittihad. I mean, I was surprised Al Ittihad didn't do more than what they should have. Karim Benzema didn't play the first game, and Kante got a red card. So a lot of things went wrong for Al Ittihad. The first game was, well, actually, both games finished 2-0 in favor of Al Hilal. So not really much else to add, but very disappointing performance from Al Ittihad, I would say. I mean, I was expecting them to score one or two or something, but that's it.
Yeah, and some very good ties, like you said. Al Ain versus Al Nasser was amazing. The return leg was just one of the best Asian Champions League games I've ever seen. It was just so back and forth, you know, with Al Ain taking the lead, 2-0 lead actually, Al Nassr losing a lot of hope, but then in the second half, they just came back completely. Very bad performance from both keepers, I should say. It was very shocking. And I was surprised, especially by Khalid Issa, because he's a very experienced goalkeeper. Although he did prove me wrong during the penalty shootout, he saved two penalties, I think. And yeah, just I'm happy because a team from UAE is through to the semifinals. That means I can hopefully watch the semi-final and maybe the final if they're able to make it. Al Hilal also, it was a very straightforward win for them against Al Ittihad. They just showed Al Ittihad showed no heart, no desire to play. It was very shocking by them. And then in the east side, yeah, Yokohama. Uh, Not Yokohama. Yeah, Yokohama beat Shandong Taishan, the last remaining team from China, to set up a Japanese versus Korean classic in the semifinal. I'm looking forward to both these games, and hopefully the best teams win. Now moving on to the other Asian club competition, the AFC Cup. Obviously, this is less important, so I'll just go through this really quick. So in the interzonal semifinals, the Central Coast Mariners beat Odisha of India 4-0 in Australia, and then the second game ended 0-0. So the Australians went through. That's the last Indian team in the competition, and Odisha are out as well. Abdish Atakan, a team from Kyrgyzstan, beat Taichung Futur 8-1 on aggregate. So Kyrgyzstan not only haunting the Chinese Taipei in the World Cup qualifiers, but in the club competitions as well. That sets up Central Coast Mariners versus Abdish Atakant in the interzonal finals. So, yeah, an Australian team is going to have a trip to Kyrgyzstan. That's a very interesting tie. And then in the West Zone finals, Al Nahd of Oman will play against Al Ahad of Lebanon. So the winner of those games will play each other in the ultimate AFC Cup final to see who will be crowned the champions of the last edition. So Arya, you wanna take us through, I think, some of the U23 friendlies you mentioned earlier to me?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of under 23 action going on. I mean, obviously the under 23 Asian Cup is just upon us. We're going to be covering that, so stay tuned. But before that, there's been the West Asian Championship, which, when you really do look at the ties, isn't really West Asian. There's a lot of teams that don't really belong there. I'm not sure what the thought process was behind selecting these teams. Like, we have teams like Egypt who were invited, um, and as well as Japan, who played two under 23 games, who I would have argued would have been better for them to just join this championship, right? It would have been a lot more not beneficial, but you know, at least they would have gotten something out of playing against some of these top Asian sides. But nevertheless, we're gonna go through the under 23 games first. It was a very quick sort of, I guess you can say, tournament. There was only two teams per group. So in Group A, we had Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Group B had South Korea and Thailand. Group C, we had Egypt and the UAE. And Group D, we had Australia and Iraq. So whoever the winners of those of those groups were the ones advancing. Um, so, the winner of the whole thing was South Korea, which is nice to see. They won against Australia after penalties, and we've saw some familiar faces, but it remains to be seen what the full squad is going to be for the under 23 Asian Cup. So, like I
I
said, I don't
think,
really have much to say, but
yes,
yeah.
Arya, sorry to disturb you, but very shocking that Iran Kunda has not been called up for Australia, because their U23 squad was released, I think, yesterday or today morning. And
Huh.
yeah, the Australians are sad that Iran Kunda, who's been, playing very well, he's not been called up. So I just wanted to mention that, which is a bit shocking for me.
Yeah, maybe they still see him as too young to be playing in under 23, but I think he's more than ready. I mean, he's like 18, 17, 18. He's very, very young. So he still has a lot to learn, a long way to go. And yeah, watching all of this, I mean, there's not really much else to say. It's good preparation. As for the Japanese national side, they played two games. They played one against Mali, in which they lost 3-1, and then they played against Ukraine, in which they won that one 2-0. Like I said, there's been some familiar faces. Maybe some of you will recognize Joel Chima Fujita, who plays for St. Croydon, Kuya Matsuki as well, who is considered as one of the future young guns for the Japanese national side. So that's pretty much it for the under 23 action here. Again, remains to be seen what's going to happen in the under 23 Asian Cup. I'm excited. No Iran though, which is pretty depressing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that during the West Asian U23 Championship, half of the teams weren't even from West Asia, but that's kind of understandable, as it was a preparation tournament mostly rather than an actual West Asian Championship. But I didn't understand why they made the teams into groups instead of just making it straight as a knockout tie, because
Yeah, yeah,
they
I
made
agree.
it as in groups, but they just played one game, so it doesn't make much sense. But it is what it is. And yeah, like Arya said, we will be covering the U23 Asian Cup as it starts later on. Just before we end the episode, I want to cover one more thing. The FIFA Series was played for the first time in last March, and we had 5 teams from the AFC actually participating. In the first edition, it was held in Azerbaijan, and Mongolia participated. Even though it was very disappointing for them, they lost both their games. But to be fair, they only lost 1-0 to the host Azerbaijan, which is, I would say, a good result. But then they lost 3-0 to Tanzania. They didn't score a single goal, but I think it's still a good experience for them. A relatively, but a country that doesn't have much of a population. But yeah, and the other one that I want to talk about is the one in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka got their first win in a long time against another Asian country, Bhutan. In the other game, Bhutan lost 6-0 to the Central African Republic, and Sri Lanka drew 0-0 against Papua New Guinea. So Sri Lanka actually went undefeated in this tournament. Another Asian team that won a game was Brunei. They defeated Oceanian side Vanuatu 3-2, but they did lose to Bermuda 2-0. And then finally, the last Asian side is Cambodia, who unfortunately for them, they lost both their games, 2-0 against Equatorial Guinea, and Guyana, they lost 4-1. So yeah, I think that's it. Arya, is there anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this whole FIFA series thing, a lot of people have mixed opinions on it. I think it's good in the way that, a lot of these smaller teams are going to have a lot more light shed on them. A lot more people are going to pay attention to these smaller nations, right? And Sri Lanka as an example, these guys went undefeated against teams that should have beaten them realistically. Um, but it's pretty cool to see. Now, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with how the whole, I guess, system works. Are all nations going to be covered by this in the future, or is it just a select amount of nations? Because I'd like to see how the bigger Asian sides are going to enter. Are we going to see the likes of Japan in this? Are we going to see the likes of Iran, Saudi Arabia, South Korea? Because we've seen Croatia participating in this, right? So I think that was if I'm not mistaken, they were the best team from that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, Croatia. We got some bigger nations, Croatia, Egypt, Tunisia, which were all in one group. So I guess it remains to be seen. What do you think, Efron?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be held, I think, in the March window of every even years. So the next one will be in 2026 before the World Cup. And no, I think definitely the bigger Asian nations can participate as well, but they have to be in a like higher standard tournament like the one which was held in Egypt. And yeah, why not? I think they can definitely be good additions to the next editions.
All right, perfect. So that's pretty much going to be it for this video, or not video, sorry, podcast. Um, I'm too, I'm too used to saying video, guys. I'm sorry. And yeah, like I said, we're going to be coming back to cover much more. Again, apologizing for this whole, 1 month absence. We've both been very busy, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have fun. Anything you want to say?
Yeah,
Finish off
thank you
this.
guys everything again, and see you guys next time.